Oh my gosh, yes, I saw it.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You take
Got your microphone?
computer.
Yep, you look fine, Jeff.
Fine as well.
I do? Okay, good.
I can tell people, I can just come on and watch that.
Oh,
Randy, are you ready? Okay, good evening and welcome to the regularly scheduled Smithville R2 Board of Education meeting for November. If you would, please rise at this time and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, I was asked to kind of start off the meeting, since the high school has gone back into the yellow zone, that if you are not sitting next to a family member, we ask that you spread out at least 3 feet if you're not going to wear a mask. Or when you're moving about within the auditorium, whether you're going to the speaking podium or whatever, leaving the auditorium, please at that point, put on a mask. Okay. 7.0, adoption and modification of the agenda. 7.1, does anybody have any changes or modifications to the agenda that need to be made? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion and a second to adopt the modification or adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to adopt the modification. Please vote. Motion passes. 7.2, approve the regular session meeting minutes for October 20th, 2021. Any questions or changes that need to be made regarding the minutes for October 20th? Hearing none, I'll accept the motion and a second to approve the regular session meeting minutes for October 20th, 2021.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second to approve the regular session meeting minutes for October 20th, 2021. Any further discussion? Please vote. Okay, 8.0, approval of consent agenda items. Consent agenda items for November are approve the bills for payment for November 2021, the supplemental pay for November 2021, the says state wrestling travel request, but it's out of state travel request. 8.4, approve board policy GBCA for the second reading. 8.5, approve Hope Squad affiliation agreement, and 8.6, approve bus transportation routes for the 2021-2022 school year. Questions or comments on the agenda items in our consent agenda? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion in a second to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the 6 consent agenda items presented in our packet. Any further discussion? Please vote. Excuse me. Motion passes. 9.0, communications. 9.1, correspondence.
I'm muted here. So the administration is well into the rounding activity where We divide up the staff and visit with them about various things. One of the questions that we ask is, for whom in the district are you most grateful? And Mrs. Ambrosen was visiting with Jim Watt. In response to that question, he named the board, the school board, as a group that he's very thankful for. And you have that, that note then in your correspondence, thanking you for your service.
9.2, board priorities update.
Yeah, a couple of things here. Later on in the agenda, we're going to talk about a salary schedule adjustment to custodians, and that's relevant to board priority number 2. So we'll get to that here in a little bit. As far as board priority number 3, Dr. Cradfield is going to update the board on a recent meeting we had with the Kindness and Inclusion Committee and how our efforts are going there thus far. So Dr. Cradfield.
Thank you, Dr. Schutz. We had our first meeting last Thursday. We spent 2 hours together, and the agenda included looking at where we were, the experiences that we had 5 years ago, and our responses in relation to that. Also, where we currently are. So each of the participants had an opportunity to share in small groups what their children are experiencing, what staff are seeing, hearing, what administrators are investigating, just to build a foundational knowledge of the reality for some of our kids in the school district. And the agenda also included visioning where we want our future to be. We did not get that far. There was a lot of discussion on those first 2 topics. And so we'll meet again on December 1st with this group. And that will include that visioning activity of where we want to be, and then brainstorming ways to get there. And my hope is with that brainstorming activity, we'll find different areas where we can focus our attention, and then develop some smaller action team groups similar to what we do when we do our strategic planning as a district, which will allow us then to include additional voices in the conversation as we work on some of the smaller components of the plan. Several of you were there, so I'll certainly give you an opportunity to share it if you would like, but I felt like our first meeting was fairly successful. I enjoyed the energy and the passion of the people who were there, really just wanting to make our schools as welcoming and kind and inviting and loving as they possibly can be for all of our kids. So did any of you want to share your experiences from last week's meeting?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. It was a great kickoff meeting. I had a phenomenal table to work with, and you know, pretty clear that this is a broad issue with multiple aspects of this, and the efforts that are underway to kind of, you know, to borrow the phrase of see the more than the 10% on the surface and the get to the 90% below. I think a lot of those efforts were really kind of undertaken the other night and really set a solid foundation for some of this discussion going forward.
In addition, POAC has been working with a group of 120 approximately high school students. They had their 3rd session on Monday, and they will conclude the Monday after Thanksgiving. And today they began working with our middle school students in those small group conversations about really discovering the 90%, the part that most of us don't see, just to establish those connections and kind of live up to the motto that we've been talking about over many meetings, that really our goal is to focus on what we have in common rather than what makes us different, so we can create that atmosphere of belonging for all of our students. Are there any other questions? Then I'll move into my comments if that's okay, Jenny. I have 2 things to update the board on, and I'm going to start with aspiring principals. So as most of you are aware, our aspiring principals every year take on an issue or a problem of practice that they see in the district, and they research and develop a solution to that problem of practice. In years past, we have done those presentations in April, which makes for a very busy night because that's also the board reorganization meeting. So I would like to suggest that either we do those presentations on May 3rd when we have the program evaluations, or we have it preceding the May board meeting. And I would just like the board's direction on that so I can communicate with our 4 teachers who are participating in the program.
Recommendation May.
I would recommend May, either May 3rd in conjunction with the program evaluations or prior to executive session at the May board meeting.
I have no objection.
I'd rather probably when we have our program evaluation.
You will also have a budget workshop that evening. Well, I'll have to check the schedule on that. We can work around that.
So is the direction either of those will work as long as we're not making one of them too long? Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. And lastly, I just wanted to update the board on our efforts related to real world learning. We have several strategies in our strategic plan related to this topic. And I'm really excited about the progress that we've made in just the few short months that we've been in school. And I'm going to give Carol Noker, our real world learning and community partnership facilitator, all of the credit for that. So one thing that we've done is we have established Missouri Connection accounts for all of our schools so that we can begin doing career interest inventories with students in 4th, 6th, 8th, and 9th grade. Our counselors have always done some career exploration, but this will help us be a little more targeted when we have a career fair, for example, at an elementary school. We can use that data to help us determine who we should invite so that kids can learn more about careers that they're interested in. We've also, last year, we worked on a pathways document where we have identified the 6 career pathways and different occupations that fall within those. And we have identified the classes that we offer at the high school level that would be good for students to take if that's a career they're interested in. There's a lot of additional information on that document as well, but that's the primary focus to once kids have taken a career interest inventory, they can use that document then to help them build their 4-year plan. We have customized the 4-year plan in Missouri Connections, which is referred to as an ICAP. That's the Individual Career and Academic Program. Students work on this annually, and currently it's not in a very formal structure, but this will allow students to document the courses that they plan to take all 4 years of high school within the Missouri Connections system. And then they can update that as they need to from year to year, because obviously what they choose in 8th grade may not be what they end up choosing their junior or senior year. But that will be a very helpful tool for our families. We are also, our design team for the Real World Learning Grant through Kaufman is hard at work. We have a site visit this Friday to 2 local schools. One of them uses the academy approach, which is basically taking those major career categories and aligning courses with that. Again, the pathways and the courses with those. So for example, if the student knows that they want to go into a STEM related career, they might go into the STEM Academy. And again, we're not sure exactly where we're going to go with this, but it's something that has been of interest in our district for a couple of years. And so we're exploring what that looks like for some of the districts around us. And then the other is really exploring heavily the client connected project, which is one of the market value assets that we feel we can really expand and allow our kids to get some great experience working with business partners to solve a problem for them that is usable and helpful to that business. So those are the 2 focuses that we have for this Friday. And then in December, we're going to Cedar Rapids to visit Iowa Big, which also has a heavy focus on client connected projects. And that will all be funded through the grant monies that we receive. So there will be no district money used to fund that trip or anything. I think those are the big things that we have going in March. March 25th is the date that we will present to Kaufman our plan for moving forward. And so we anticipate having that to the board prior to, so that you can hear what we'll be presenting and kind of our plan of action as we move forward. Any questions? Thank you.
So you can see a lot of steel erection going on the side. Yeah. You can see it. During different times, whether it's a soccer game, football game, track event, that's facilities they will use while they're down there. And we'll actually have a roof facility for our visitors as well, instead of just some giant spots and a barn on that south end. So that's the home side end. And so if you want to go to the next slide, this is actually the visitor side. So now we're looking back northwest, and you can kind of see the steel erection and how those supports are coming together and coming along. So it's coming along really good. Weather, of course, cooperated a lot better this week than it did previous weeks with the rain. So crews are out working really hard. Next slide, if you could. This is actually a picture of where you'll see the visitor concessions and restrooms. So on the visitor side, they'll be able to come around, and this will be a additional concessions area, and then they'll also have a restrooms area. So what that'll do is allow us to separate both the home and visitor side. I know that may not seem like a big deal in Smithville because we usually don't have any negative interactions between the other teams, but that's not always the case when you go places. So starting to establish that and keeping, the visitors on one side and the home on the other side just helps keep those emotions separate when they're running high during a contest. And a lot of times it's the best way to try to handle your crowd control. So that's the concessions and restroom area for the visitor side. And you want to go to the next slide. This is the stairs going from the first floor to the second floor. And also you can see the CMU block that they're building for our elevator. So of course, this building is going to be fully ADA compatible, and we have an elevator that will be able to be utilized for folks that need to go from the first to second floor in this area. So that's a little bit of the inside area they're building up right now. So next slide, Randy. Again, this is our timeline. You can see a lot of our milestones are already complete. Again, that early December is when that building is going to be enclosed, and that's updated. And once that's enclosed, all that work on the inside from your rough and plumbing, your rough and electrical, all the infrastructure that's going to be put in place for the different areas that we have for locker rooms, restrooms, concessions, will all be pretty much be working in there from December to May, and we'll have a open house at the end of May for everybody to come see the new building. So of course, the next slide, if you want to talk about that, I want to mention again the naming. We sent out a survey to our community members, our staff, our students, to give some ideas for the name of this building. And per policy FF, we are going to have a committee review those names and kind of narrow those down based on the popularity of name and some of the names presented, and be able to give you a group of names for our Board of Education to then look those over and you guys to vote on a name appropriate for that building. So that's going to be coming. We're getting the committee members now that we have all the submissions. And so I just wanted to let you know that's coming down the road. So any questions that I can answer? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, 9.5, comments from the audience. This is an opportunity for members of the audience to make comments to the board. A total of 20 minutes will be allocated for public comment. Speakers will be heard in the order in which they notified the superintendent of their desire to speak. If the 20 minutes expires prior to all speakers being heard, any speakers not heard may submit their comments in writing to the district office at 655 South Commercial Avenue, Smithville, Missouri 64089, or email the board members directly. Email addresses can be found on the school website. Individuals addressing the board should state their name, address, and limit their comments to no more than 5 minutes. Items or issues related to specific personnel should not be discussed in open session. Before we get started here tonight, we've got a little situation. One of the people that signed up was on the top, number 2 on the list, was unable to make it and tried to delegate their time to someone else. We did allow that when the person was actually here, and they gave 1 minute of their time, if you remember a couple of meetings ago. But there is no precedent for somebody not being here actually being able to transfer their time when they signed up. The board didn't feel that would be fair to the numbers 5, 6, and 7 on the list if they got to their time. The current order in that case, number 1 here tonight, number 2, we are number 3, Jay Hebbage, and number 5, Stephanie P. Or number 4, Stephanie P. Lauren McNeese, that I believe is a high school senior that's here tonight, was informed of that. If any of the 4, I'm sorry? Well, I understand that, but that's what I'm just trying to tell you right now, is there is no precedent for somebody that's not here allowing to give their 5 minutes to somebody and take their place.
Number one, Mr. Aaron Knight.
Aaron Knight, 14485 Elliott Court. Precedent's there to be made. So as a board, feel free to make the precedent if you feel it's warranted. We seem to have two sides to the recent mask debate. We have one side who is pro big government. They feel that government should have the rights to mandate masks and other policies for the greater good. Whereas the other side is pro individual rights. They feel the government doesn't have the right to impose these type of mandates, as our rights are God-given. The government's job is to protect these rights, not take them away. I get and understand the positions in the debate. The problem I have is that no one's really looking at the elephant in the room. That's masks. They play no role in slowing or stopping the spread of a respiratory virus. In the past, I provided you with countless studies that are peer-reviewed with control groups. There are no RCT peer-reviewed studies that have been provided to the board that show masks work. This is because they don't exist. In my email today to the board, I provided 14 RCTs that show masks play no role in slowing or stopping the spread of a respiratory virus. In past emails, I provided the board access to the COVID-19 National School Dashboard. The dashboard shows higher positivity rates in masked schools compared to unmasked. In the instance of the dashboard, correlation is not necessarily causation, but the raw data is important in a piece of the puzzle. The most recent study has come out of the Cato Institute. This study looked over 16 RCTs. These included 2 COVID-19 specific RCTs, 5 communal RCTs, 8 household setting RCTs, and 1 healthcare setting RCT. The healthcare setting was from a Japanese hospital. The study showed no statistical difference in the symptoms shown in the mask group from the non-mask group. From the conclusion of the Cato study, they stated, it is important to consider the alternate possibility that community masking may accelerate rather than reduce transmission of infectious diseases. Although some evidence suggests masks may cause non-infected related harms such as breathing difficulties, psychological burdens, impaired communication, skin irritations and breakdowns, and headaches, the most concerning potential harm to health is an increased rate of disease spread. Think back to the COVID dashboard information that's out there. The COVID dashboard was a group of schools across the country that volunteered data for an entire year last year for that project. A study of healthcare workers who were returning from Hajj reported the intermittent use of face masks was associated with a higher rate of acute respiratory tract infections than not wearing masks. In a study of 509 households comprised of 2,788 individual members, households in the hand sanitizer group included significantly more members without any reported upper respiratory symptoms compared to the hand sanitizer plus face mask group, 57.6 to 38.7%. In non-healthcare settings, of the 14 RCTs identified by authors that evaluated face mask efficacy compared to no mask controls and protecting against respiratory infections, 13 failed to find statistical significant benefits from face mask use under intention to treat analysis. In communal living settings, 4 of the 5 RCTs failed to show statistically significant benefits to masking. And the promising results of the 5th study were not confirmed when its authors sought to replicate the results in a much larger follow-up trial. Of 8 RCTs that evaluated face mask efficacy against respiratory illness transmission in non-healthcare household settings, all 8 failed to find a statistically significant benefit to the use of face masks alone compared to controls in their intention to treat analysis. And only 3 found statistically significant benefits in highly selective subgroup analysis. In the past, this board has removed the mask mandate when cases were increasing. They have implemented the mask mandate when cases were decreasing. We've seen some of our highest positive case counts when the mask was mandated. We've seen some of our lowest numbers when there was no mandates. What's up is down and what's down is up. If you try to relate mask to the numbers. With mask, you could use the argument of mask work because middle school numbers went up. Well, what Eagle Heights went down 75% over the last week. Virus is going to virus. I mean, I know people can have good intentions and we can want to do things, but the reality of it is masks don't work. They don't stop the spread of respiratory viruses. Respiratory virus spreads through aerosol. It doesn't spread through spit droplets. If you're leaning over somebody and talking into their mouth for 6 hours, okay, you know, there's substance to that, right? But in our school community, it's just not a fix to the problem. It sounds good, it looks great, it's PC, you know. As a board, you guys have shown data and science do not play a large role in your decision. Up to now, it's whichever way the political winds are blowing is how our board will react, and that is disappointing. The community placed you in positions of leadership as we had faith you would do what's best for our children. I'll end with a Buck Sexton quote. It's stunning that there are still so many people walking around with a cloth mask on as though it will protect them from COVID. We're in the era of iPhone, SpaceX, but millions still obey mask superstitions like medieval peasants terrified of the 13. Thank you.
Thank you. Whitney Carlisle.
Hello, Whitney Carlisle. For over a year now, I have been advocating for parents to decide what is best for their children. I might be one of 4 speakers tonight, but I know for a fact I represent hundreds of concerned and frustrated parents in our district. The week masks were removed, a teacher observed that 95% of students were maskless. The way our school board is voting and determining our COVID policy does not align with what 95% of parents in our district want. When given the choice, proof was shown where Smithville parents stand. Parents were not included in a survey conducted by our admin to give feedback regarding COVID. While our votes were not included in the survey, our actions showed our views. On the slide for the 22 responses that was shown from the survey, some said they wanted to keep masks because kids were used to them now. I do not want my kids growing up in a world where they think it's normal to attend school for hours a day with half their face covered. That is not normal, and it's sad we are creating a world where our kids think it is. When Jackson County lifted their mask mandate, the Blue Springs School District immediately voted 7-0 to end the mask mandate in their schools. They said, quote, "It would be inconsistent and arbitrary to keep the mask mandate in our schools if our students and staff were not being asked to wear a mask in any other setting. Our kids eat lunch, obviously maskless, with students in their class. They also play at recess with their friends, maskless. Yet, when they go into their classroom with those same kids, they have to put a mask on. I can promise you these kids are also playing together outside of school, participating in sports and other activities together, all maskless. Mask policies and quarantine guidelines go hand in hand. I'll repeat what has been said for months now. Those who test positive or show symptoms should stay home. We have a friend whose son has been quarantined 5 times. He has never shown symptoms or tested positive. Of the 723 students who have been quarantined this year, 23 went on to test positive. I'll repeat that. 723 students quarantined, 23 positive. That means 700 students were at home by themselves for no reason. That should be all you need to show our quarantine policy is not effective. We cannot afford to continue having healthy kids at home in isolation. You can change our quarantine policy. Please do not shift the blame on the county rules. They recommended masks be worn, and we have adopted a different standard. So we can do this with our quarantine rules too. Some have voiced concerns about quarantine policy based on mission guidelines for our student athletes. Well, I am a loud and proud Warrior fan, and I do not want anything to interfere with all the work we have put in. For that reason, I made sure to speak up at the Clay County Health Department meeting the day following our last board meeting. I was the only public comment advocating for them to review their policy. If this is the reason you vote to continue with their current policies, please speak up at their board meeting tomorrow. On the agenda, the COVID discussion is marked as an info item. It was my understanding that our policies would be voted on each month. I believe the public has a right to know exactly where our board members stand on this topic currently. I know many students or many teachers are concerned about what they will do if their kids are quarantined. Adding that stress to an already mentally and emotionally draining year is not fair for them. Our district has received close to $1 million in COVID relief money. Have plans been made to distribute those funds to our teachers? We've seen the viral videos of schools giving $500 to its entire staff recently. While it certainly isn't enough, It is a step in the right direction. Teachers are being asked to cover classes during their planned time, deal with frustrated parents, guilty, and work with students who are also having a hard time. Combine that with the financial stress the holidays can bring, surely we can do something to show our support to them, especially knowing that it's an approved use of these items or these funds. Paying for a sidewalk from central office to Horizon does little good if we don't have quality teachers to fill our buildings. I hope discussion will be had tonight in how we can show with our actions and our budget that we support and appreciate our teachers and staff during this hard year. We need to do more for our students and staff. Please speak up and stand up for the people you represent and the students counting on you. Thank you, and go Warriors.
Jay Petkevich.
Jay Petkevich, 103 Wisteria Court. I knew I was going to be speaking tonight, but to be honest, I hadn't fully decided exactly what I wanted to say. I had hoped that I wanted to say what I wanted to say a couple of months ago. I wanted to thank the board members who voted to keep the mask mandate in place for their diligence, because it was the reason my daughter was able to go to school. I wanted to thank the teachers and the students for their perseverance through this difficult time. Nobody wants to be masked. They were the reason my kids were able to go to school. But you all took that away from us. I've been listening to the last couple of months for parents calling out board members by name, calling them liar, hypocrite, which my understanding was that was against board policy, but we just let that go on, don't we? So if that's the case, I'm not going to call out specific people, but I am going to call out some of the nonsense that I've heard over the last couple of months. To those board members that believe masks are worse than the virus and claim that the vaccine causes ovarian cancer, please take that nonsense back into your doomsday bunker. It does not belong here in the public debate. To those of you that are all about the numbers, the ones that say they're the data people, your data and your numbers mean nothing without history. And we've seen history now have to repeat itself. To the parents that believe that their 10,000 hours of parenting mastery against the global pandemic is better than the millions and millions of hours by medical professionals, infectious disease experts and researchers and doctors that all tell us that our kids should stay masked until they can get vaccinated, your opinion is both deluded and dangerous. And the new report that just came out bears that out. A study of over 275,000 children. Over half of them that got COVID are now still suffering at least one symptom of the disease over more than a 120-day period. That's called long haul COVID. If you have a pre-existing condition, asthma, heart condition, obesity, you are 25 times more likely to develop severe COVID as a child. This is the reality that we're sending our kids into, especially now that flu season is upon us and hospital beds aren't guaranteed to fill up again. Twice you decided not to listen, and now twice our cases have spiked in the schools. And as the county boards are starting to remove those again as well, the numbers are going up. They just skyrocketed again in Clay County and across our states. To quote, or I should say to paraphrase, a political commentator from the 90s, it's the mask, stupid. And now these same parent choice advocates are trying to move into different arenas. Oh, there's bullying going on in schools, there's racism. Don't worry, we'll take care of it at home. That type of education doesn't belong in our schools. These same parents that physically shove their children in front of them like human shields while they cuss out board members on the stage, the ones that wear Guy Fawkes masks and try to intimidate the people that they don't like at board meetings, these are the people that are going to teach our children and be a good example about bullying and diversity and inclusion studies. Teachers administrators. They are trained not just to teach their specific subjects, they're also trained to teach our kids to be good citizens. Parents also have that role. There used to be a partnership in this community. We used to have a group of citizens together. We don't have that anymore. They say, we'll be pulling the masks off, so what we need to do is change our gating criteria, change the quarantine policies. That way our kids can definitely go to the football game. That way we can definitely avoid all this. I thought the whole primary purpose wasn't about trying to evade the quarantines. It was supposed to be about keeping our kids safe. I had to have not one, but 2 meetings with admins this week, or over the last couple of weeks, right as you guys changed the gating policy with administrators. And they were tearful conversations where we were told, don't worry, we're going to do everything we can to give your daughter a fair education. But it's not fair. Fair is her to be in her class where she belongs, knowing that she's protected. And you took all that away. She deserves better. She deserves better. All of our kids deserve better. Shame on you all.
Stephanie McBee. Excuse me, Stephanie McBee. Okay, Brooke Perkins.
I wasn't prepared to speak tonight, but I will. Also, I was hoping if it's okay with you, I'd like to give half of my time to the high school student who wanted to speak here as well, if that's okay. Do you want to speak? Okay, come up here and you can have half my time. I just want to address some of the things that were said tonight. I think we are all here for our children, and our children all deserve better, and what is better is in the parents' eye, not in the eye of government or anyone else. And I know that you guys are doing what you can to move the bar and appease the public and be here for the children. And I can appreciate the steps that you've been taking. While I agree that there's still movement that we can do forward towards gaining criteria completely, in my opinion, but the mask removal completely, again, that's my opinion. I think that I can appreciate the steps that you've taken so far. I know we're not going to just get there immediately, but we're working together for that. And, you know, we can all talk about studies of COVID and masking and how it's going to affect it. Even the vaccines, I think everybody can see that there's plenty of data out there that show that the vaccines are having adverse reactions, like 1.5 million in counting. So I think we should all pay attention to that data that's on the VAERS website, that's on the WHO's website, it's on the CDC website. So this is actual data that you can look at. I'm not just throwing my own facts out there. It's not an opinion, it's a fact. But I would just encourage you guys to keep looking at the facts that are available to the public. That's what I have.
Hi, my name is Lauren McNeese. My address is 314 Shannon Avenue. I am a senior here at Smithville High School. I am here to bring awareness to the sexually explicit books that are in our school library. There has been a lot of talk recently about the books made available to us students, and students have been discussing it. There are some of these books in the library, as well as required reading in classes such as Mrs. Warewards and other teachers. I have recently been made aware of the 9 books that are in our libraries that are available to high school and 3 in the middle school. These books have inappropriate content that should not be available to students without parents knowing. These books cover topics that students have told me is shocking to them and makes them feel very uncomfortable. Topics such as detailed masturbation, boners, boys getting into girls' pants, racism, bullying, oral sex, and sex with partners of all kinds. I'm even embarrassed to say those words out loud. Although some of these topics are not wrong themselves, the way they are presented in these books is not shed in good light. I'm just curious if we think it would be appropriate to have someone who shoots up cocaine come to school and speak and show us students the steps of how to do it. No, we wouldn't think that's okay. Then why is it okay for students to have to read inappropriate sexual material that gives the step-by-step process? It's not, and the district should be ashamed we have these books in our library shelves and teachers pushing them on us. It is important that we maintain a high level of education for students. Pushing a questionable sexual content on students without parents knowing is not okay. I think a good move going forward would be for the board to put together a committee of board members, teachers, and parents who can take time to examine these books and determine if they should be made available to students in school. School is not a place for inappropriate ideas to be placed on our developing minds. If you're interested in getting these books out of our school districts, I would like one of you to contact me to show me that you care. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. At this point, we'll move on to our board business 10.1 COVID update.
Joe already pulls up the presentation. Denise is going to go through some data with you. And this is the same kind of data that you're used to seeing month to month. And then I'll have some comments then towards the end. So Denise.
Okay, good evening, everyone. As you can see, our dashboard was updated today. And with that, we've had a rise in our positive cases. We have a total of 37 positive cases this week and 162 students were quarantined, with 5 out of the 6 buildings, or 4 out of the 5 schools that are in the yellow, and 1 school remains in the green. Okay, I'm gonna do what? Yep. Next slide, please. And just a reminder on that, just so everyone remembers, once we reach a threshold, we need to show 2 weeks of improvement before we move down. So although, for example, this week high school had 9 cases, last week it was in the yellow, it's gone down to the green by 1 case. We'll stay there 1 week. If it's there again next week, if it's still lowering, then at that point we move. So I know that gets confusing, but just reminding everyone it is posted, and it was posted on that slide as well. This is the data from Clay County that they provided. As far as in-school transmission, they calculated this for me. So last month, whenever I asked for this data, we were at 1% positive. Right now, it's at 3.67% student in-school transmission and 4.12% staff in-school transmission. And you can see by the graph, it has gone up slightly. That's the pink line on the bottom left. This could be for a couple of different reasons. It could be after the holiday, after Halloween, they anticipate a spike. It could be because of masking. We don't know that. The next slide shows you again our positive cases and our quarantine number on a line graph, so you can see that as a visual. The following is another line graph. This is our local data for our zip code. Again, the blue line is ages 5 to 14. The red line is ages 15 and up. That big spike was back in September, but again, we're just kind of going back and forth a little bit. October, November. The following is simply data from Children's Mercy. We presented it each month, and again, you can see the same type of reaction happening even at Children's Mercy, where those numbers are going back and forth. They are declining. but you'll see the little spikes. You can see the positive case though has reduced by half. They've been cut in half. Last month we had 8. Right now there's only 4 confirmed positive inpatient children. The county and region data from Mark looks like there's 18 daily average new cases, 102 per 100K. This has gone down again. You can see overall it's trending down. Right now we have a little spike up. It's back to the holiday season because people gather a lot. People are interacting, but overall, generally, the trend line is going down. The next page again just shows where Clay County still tends to be towards the top of the region though, as far as positive cases. You can see where the 5th from the top. And then the county data here, it gets confusing because you see here the red, yellow, orange, and blue. It goes in the order of red, orange, yellow, blue as from increasing to decreasing. We have 107 cases which are in the red, but the positivity rate is 12% in the yellow. Last month, that positivity rate was only 9, but it was in the orange. That's because the cases, the number of cases are actually going up, but the overall general rate is going down. It's really confusing when you look at those numbers. So although there's a spike in cases right now, the overall rate is still decreasing. Okay.
Okay, Randy, if you go to the next slide. This is all information that you're probably aware of if you follow the news at all or listen to what's going on around you. Excelsior Springs School District, shortly after the Smithville School District, implemented a gating criteria that was very similar to ours. We know that, and has been mentioned tonight, Blue Springs removed their mask mandate when Jackson County dropped their mask mandate. Shawnee Mission School District removed the mask mandate for grades 7 through 12. That'll begin January 3rd. Olathe and Blue Valley School Districts are making mask optional for high school students beginning on the 29th. And then we know that KCMO dropped their mask mandate except for schools and school buses. So I'm sure that's not all inclusive of the updates that are going on around us, but a few to mention for sure. Randy? And so at this point, you know, our cases and quarantines have risen significantly, you know, more than tripled for our cases. And because of that, we're dealing with, you know, a lot more quarantines. When the masks are off, quarantines are much more strict, and we're seeing a lot more of those, and it's very problematic. It's very difficult for our students, certainly, to keep up when they're in quarantine. It's very difficult for our teachers. But I think we need to let the gating criteria serve its intended purpose by guiding our masking practice. So, you know, in theory, our cases have gone up, put us into the range where we believe masks need to come back on. And from that, if the system works as it should, our cases should drop because we do have in-school transmissions, and certainly our quarantines should drop because masks will be present. And in that case, quarantines are not needed nearly as much. So to Whitney Carlisle's point earlier in her presentation, and I appreciate this recognition and her recognition and this comment, we are in frequent conversation with the county health department, officials from the county health department. I speak with the director frequently. Denise has a weekly call with the health department. They're very aware of our concerns over the current masking requirement. And we would like for them to loosen those restrictions, so to speak. They do, and as she mentioned, because of the MISHA requirement that's in there, it makes it very, very difficult for us. So we're working on that. We'll continue to communicate with them, collaborate with them. And the Smithville School District is not the only school district having this conversation with the Clay County Center for Public Health. So we're working on that. They are very accessible to us, and we don't hesitate to have those conversations, and nor do they hesitate to contact us. You're gonna say something?
I would like to say, and I told the nurses I would, the yellow makes it very challenging. I will say that as far as for the nurses and for our students to quarantine, that is hard. We had what we would consider some outbreaks in a couple of grade levels in some buildings where we had, just in the last month, we've had 9 additional students of in-school transmission that we were able to track. However, when we send that information to the county, they really track that in-school transmission. I can look at our chart and look at names, but they track it. They did send me a letter today saying, we really need our parents' help. We've had students that have become sick because parents have been ill, and then they're sending their kids to school. So we do ask that, please. That would help everyone out too. If you're sick, stay home and keep your kids home if they're sick, and that would help. So again, just working together. I think that's everybody's goal, as we've heard tonight, is just working together and keeping sick kids home. Quarantining is no fun for anyone, and our goal really is having kids in school. And so it is continuous collaboration, as Dr. Schutz said. We have asked for them to really look into that, so we're not having to quarantine so many of our kids.
So I'm not asking for any changes this evening to our quarantine and masking practices. It's listed as info because when we first implemented this, we were not masked, right? And it's the gating criteria then that's providing this guidance. But to be on the safe side, to Whitney's point as well, it probably would be appropriate that the board take action on whether to continue with this gating criteria and allowing it to provide this guidance in dictating our masking policy or not. So it's not listed as info tonight, or it is listed as info tonight. Karen, are you changing that? She's going to change that to action. And then again, just to be on the safe side, I apologize, you probably weren't prepared for this. I'm sure you weren't. I think it would be appropriate if we go ahead and have the board act on that again this evening.
Okay, before we proceed, are there any comments or questions on the COVID update presentation that was presented before we proceed with any kind of motion?
What is our quarantine policy?
In terms of time away.
Yep.
Our quarantine policy currently, if you are deemed in close contact, so if you're exposed to somebody that's tested positive with COVID-19, you have to quarantine for 10 days. And then wear a mask through day 14. However, if you choose to test and get a PCR test on day 5 or later, and it comes back negative, then you return after day 8. Or on day 8. Correct. And you're not exhibiting symptoms. And you must mask through day 14.
Just to clarify on the data, 96% of the positive cases we have in a school, according to our county's information, comes from external sources and not within transmission within the schools.
That's what they share there on that slide. You saw 4%, so 96% would be outside.
How does that compare to? How does that compare to what?
It was about 1.5% last month, and we're at about 4% this month.
Those school transmissions have gone up.
They've gone up 2.5%.
I just, listening to the comments tonight, I just want to reiterate, this board never took anyone's mask away. We gave you the option to wear them or not. And I get irritated when people come up to me and say, well, why did you vote to remove masks? I didn't remove your mask. I gave you the option to decide what you want to do best for your family. I think it's evident, but in retrospect, I got to hear a testimony about, we have 700 quarantines and only 23 positive cases. You could easily argue our cases are that low because we're quarantining. I think it's a give and take. In my perspective, the gating criteria is the best method forward from a concession of both perspectives, because it has measures that consider if we have a healthy community, take the mask off. If it becomes unfavorable, institute a mask. And then likewise, quarantine adjust. To me, it's the best comprehensive solution forward, given the varying perspectives and opinions related to it. And I'll continue to vote that direction every time going forward, so everyone knows where I stand.
Yeah, one more thing I'll throw out. Mask or no masks, I do think our quarantine policy is a bit on the restrictive side. I think our numbers have shown that. I understand completely why we've adopted the quarantine system we've adopted, but I'll throw a challenge down for us going forward to see if we can't find an option that's truly going to work for us. Because whether we're wearing these things or not, our quarantine system that we're using, the one from the county, it has shown that it has some room for improvements.
So we're going to vote. So if we vote for continuing the gating as presented, we vote yes. If we vote no, are we just, what does that mean? Removing the gating altogether? I guess I don't understand what my options are here in my vote.
According to what I've understood, the recommendation is to continue the gating criteria and let that process determine whether or not to mask or not to mask by the schools as we voted on back in October. Otherwise, at that point, it would be to accept additional motions to make the determination of what we're going to do. So the recommendation currently is to allow the gating criteria to proceed using the data presented as was determined in October. So with that understanding, I'll accept a motion in a second for the recommendation to let the gating criteria continue to be the precedent of how we proceed, whether to mask or not mask, according to the data.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to, sorry,
That was second.
Jeff was first, Ian seconded. We've got a motion and a second to approve to continue utilizing the gating criteria to make the determination school by school on the requirement for the use of a mask. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. 10.2, general financial review.
Yeah, so earlier I shared with the board that currently with the ESSER 3 money now in the books, we're sitting about $189,000 in the black. So it's good that that money is come in and it is in the bank. Update on enrollment, pretty steady here when compared to last month. So we'll continue, of course, to evaluate that like we do on a monthly basis. Are there any questions on those two agenda items before I go to 10.4?
So the financial picture, last month we had the opportunity, or just a few weeks ago, had the opportunity to do kind of a needs assessment. Since we're sitting in the black, Randy, since we're sitting in the black, is that money unallocated and tracked for any additional cost spend through this budget cycle? Or is, considerations and needs assessment going to play into how that money will be spent?
Well, we will take each need as it comes and evaluate it, for what's presented. We are currently at about 18% reserves. Your policy calls for between 21 and 26%. It would be our hope that we could end the year enough in the black to bring your reserve percentage up into the range that your policies established as appropriate, between 21 and 26%. Having said that, we're presented with needs all the time that warrant consideration that may whittle away a little bit of that $189,000.
Dr. Schutz, I think it probably bears reminding everybody that it's not like my job where I get paid every 2 weeks. The district gets paid based upon the taxes, and the 21% on the reserves was set as a 2-month, keeping 2 months worth of finances in the bank in case anything happened throughout the year. We don't want to go below that point as far as having the ability to pay 2 months worth of bills and salaries should there be anything happen. So it's just kind of a reminder for how that 21% was set.
So certainly we're on the path of improvement, but much due diligence needs to be deployed over the course of time to continue on that path.
Any comments or questions on the enrollment or the financial review? Okay, we'll move on to 10.4, the SIP GKC insurance evaluation update.
Kim has for you a very detailed memo, a lot of really great information. I'm sure you've had a chance to look through. As you know, the district was going to put together a process to evaluate our current self-insurance model versus a fully insured model. And we went as far as to pull the committee together. We selected a broker to work with this on the fully insured side. We put bids out with our history, and we received 0 bids back. So no companies were interested in our business because our 12-month claims was too high. That run was too high. Stop loss limit did not deflect the majority of the high claims. And the number of claims in the $100,000 to $200,000 range is way above the norm for a group our size. So this board is very aware. We've had a couple of rough years in our self-insurance pool. Thus far, this fiscal year, we're in much better shape. We're building a little bit of a surplus. So that's good news. As you look at this industry, or if you've been at this for a while, there's an ebb and a flow. If you have a string of really good years, and we had a bunch of them, it's going to come back down eventually. Well, we came back down over the course of a couple of years. We came back down hard. So my intention is to shelf this effort for now. CBiz tells us that we might come back in January, and if we can string together another couple of good months, maybe we'll get some bidders. But the analogy that I use there is, if you apply for life insurance and you're informed that you're 50 pounds overweight, and then over 2 months you lose that 50 pounds, the insurer's not going to say, oh, okay, well, it's gone now, you're good to go. It was just 2 months ago you were 50 pounds. So we need a history here. And so I want to continue to string together good months, and then we can go back through this process then beginning in the fall. So that's what Kim and I, those are our intentions, unless you direct us otherwise.
We went to market at the wrong time. We need the 3 good years.
We need, yeah, we need to string together some good months. And we're doing that now. We just need to string more together so that we can demonstrate a history of a claims history that's not as risky. So that's where we're at on that. And unless you direct me otherwise, that's where we'll go. Kim, anything to add? Did I cover it? Okay.
Comments or questions? And we've got a recommendation to, we've got 2 options. One for the January 2022. The other is push back and go back to market for an RFP in October, November 2022 timeframe. Recommendation from the administration is to wait until next October, November.
So moved.
Second.
So we've got a motion and a second to wait until October, November 2022 timeframe before we proceed with pursuing an RFP. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Ian first.
Lynn second. Sorry, Karen. Motion passes. Okay, moving on to our new business, 11.1, election filing dates.
Yes, you are required to adopt your, formally adopt your election filing dates for open board seats. Even though this is dictated to you, you still must take action. So the election is April 5th, and the candidate filing dates are from December 7th to December 28th during regular business hours or by appointment, basically, is how that works. Some of that, of course, is over our Christmas break. But if a candidate were to contact Karen and say, could you meet me on December 27th at 9 a.m., she would try to make that happen or find an alternate date and time that would work for the person wanting to file for the board. So that's how all of that works. And those dates, that window has changed from what it used to be. But that is what it is now. It will be posted in the paper as well to be sure that we get the word out as best we can. But we do need your approval on that. They are, for the public's knowledge, the 2 seats that are up are Sarah Lamer and Lynn Mathias.
And just as a reminder, December 17th is the last day the district office is open before the holiday break. So anything after that would have to be made by appointment. Any further discussion?
Likewise, 8 to 4 during business hours. If someone couldn't get here in time, they get off work a little bit later, they needed to be here at 6, we could make those arrangements as well. Certainly need to do everything possible to make the appropriate accommodation for anybody that wants to file.
Comments, questions? If there's none, I'll accept a motion and a second to approve the date for the election filing. So moved. In our packet. Got a motion and a second. Ian, Jeff. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes. 11.2, Student Recognition Night, Board Recognition Dinner.
Yeah, these 2 events, longstanding history in the district. Board Recognition Dinner predates me and my time in the district, and then time in the district brought in the Student Recognition Night. 2 events that the board historically truly enjoys. We did not get to have these activities the way that we're used to last school year. I wanted to bring it to you this evening and get your thoughts on this school year. So for the Student Recognition Night, we put together some videos basically from each school, and you actually participated in some of those videos. so that we could do something from the board to pat our students on the back. You know, I don't know what your thoughts are. I don't know where our COVID experience will be when we do these things, when we want to do these things. So I reserve this agenda item for you to have that discussion so I could get your thoughts on how we might or might not proceed.
Questions, comments? I was going to say, I'll just share my thoughts on the student recognition night is that I think it would definitely be dangerous to go back to the fact of bringing all students from all 5 schools into the PAC Center together as we have done in the past. So any options other than that of possibly doing at an individual school basis, you know, I'm up for options there, but I don't think the recognition as we knew it before COVID is still an option. The board recognition dinner, I believe we could still maintain, you know, in the cafeteria, the ability to do that and still do it within reasons of the guidelines of social distancing and stuff. So that was what, 7 board members, a guest, 20, 25 people there. So I think based on, you know, other options for the student recognition night, but I don't believe the big gathering would be an ideal situation.
I think it's a fair compromise. I think there's enough of us that 1 or 2 or 3 board members could go to each school unless we all wanted to attend at various times. And we wanted to, I don't know if we wanted to do that during the day, if we wanted to do a family. I don't know if we all want to bring them to the PAC, but I guess I would ask for some recommendations on.
Yeah. So, and what we would do then is Michelle and I would visit with our principals and find out what they believe would provide the best value, what would be most appreciated for students and their parents. So we can work on that and bring some ideas to you next month.
Any other questions or comments on this topic? Okay, moving on, 11.3, board self-evaluation.
Yeah, so the past couple of years, you've utilized the instrument from MSBA. And I think everyone but Jeff has had that experience. And they provide you then with some data. And then you've conducted your own facilitation of that data. So that's, I don't have is the cost in here on that? It's relatively cheap for them to provide that service for you. And that seems to be what you've enjoyed in the past. And but I'll leave that up to you as to how you want to proceed with your self-evaluation. $150. Yeah, they do also have a service where they'll facilitate, you know, your processing of the data, but that's not been an expense or a service that you've elected to utilize in the past.
If I remember right, that was $3,500 to $4,000 just for
It was a lot
them to
more.
tell us what the data said, what
Yeah,
the answers
it's a lot
said.
more.
So after going through 7 or 8 of these, just the way we've done it the last couple of years, it's been much more productive as far as discussion amongst the board members. And we've gotten more out of it, I think, over the past couple of years than what we used to. So I would be for continuing the MSBA board self-evaluation.
Agree.
No further discussion. I'll accept a motion in a second to approve continuing the board self-evaluation as we've used the last couple of years.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second with Ian and Lynn. Any further discussion? And this is to continue utilizing the board self-evaluation tool that we've used the last couple of years. No further discussion, please vote. Motion passes. 11.4, support staff salary schedule modification.
Yes, as the board is aware, the school district has been utilizing a third-party service to fill 2.5 custodial positions that we simply could not get. We could not get the applications, and those that we did receive did not have the qualifications required for the position. So we started the school year without those 2 positions filled and have utilized a third-party service. That's not gone well, for us at all. We've not been getting some very basic needs met in our classrooms. And so plan B for us is to modify the salary schedule for the custodial staff. That would help us retain those that are already here, as well as recruit more people into the position. And to make these adjustments would be actually cheaper than going down the path that we're currently going down with this third-party service. So it's cheaper than what we were going to do with this third-party service. And we're hopeful then that we can take care of our own that are here, as well as recruit new staff as well. Robert, you have a comment?
I just want to come up and answer any questions you might have, but again, just to reflect what Dr. Shute said, the third-party service has not been what we expected or promised, and we feel like our best course of action now is to do what has worked best for our district, is to retain and improve our own staff and have those folks that are vested in our district be with us. So we feel like changing the support staff for custodial from range E to range H will improve the candidates pool that we have to choose from and be able to fill those positions, and then let our third-party contractor know their services are no longer needed.
Comments or questions regarding the recommendation for the support staff salary schedule modification? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion to approve the recommendation for the support staff salary schedule modification as presented in our packet.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second to approve the support staff salary schedule modification. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes. 11.5, change order ASI-004, the Activity Center exterior light.
Yes, so ASI 4 is basically a compilation of numbers brought together by our electrical and lighting contractor for some improvements to the activity center. I have some pictures there in the agenda item that show, one, a computer animated mock-up of what these added effects can do for us. And then two, we also have a picture of Cable Dahmer Arena. For those of you that went to our graduation last year, for those students, notice probably how Cable Dahmer was able to light up the arena green amongst their columns, kind of match our school color, our school spirit. And so basically that ability was what we modeled this pricing after. I wanted to bring this to the board because one, this would be a, an ad that isn't absolutely needed for this building. What it does do is it gives us a lot of ability to use this program to call LED lighting. So we can change those colors on them, we can put them on timers, we can make it, change for different events, for different themes. There's a lot of different things you can do because everything is computer animated with this LED lighting. So it would be, if we're going to do this, this is the time to do it because we're roughing in the building and getting those lighting areas accessible. And so I wanted to bring this option to the board for this meeting to look at this going forward. So the number breakdown for labor and materials are all within that budget document. And then of course, the two photos that you see in the budget, or sorry, in the agenda item show kind of some rendering of what cable tower looks like when they use this type of lighting. And then also what our activity center would look like with this light.
As much as I want this to be the state-of-the-art best facility, I think based on the budget discussions we've been having and continue to have, I appreciate that these are in a separate fund. I don't think this is $36,000 well spent. I think we can go with green LED lights, have them green all the time and move forward.
Any other comments?
It's been no surprise that I'm pushing savings. So yes, I concur. It's got the cool factor, the wow factor is really nice. Now it's the wrong time. So.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, at this point, this is listed as an action item. But in the past, if there is no motion or second to approve this action item, we have also said that no motion or second is also an action. Okay, I will take that as no motion or second to approve this action item, which means this action item does not pass.
Thank you again. I just wanted to bring the option for everybody to look at and see what the cost would be. And at this time, it looks like that doesn't fit, for this project. So thank you.
Thank you, Robert. 11.6, grow your own and teacher retention grant application.
Yes, the make sure I'm on. Yeah, the state has used some of their federal dollars to put together this program. And so we've been working through how we want to apply these dollars to growing our own and for teacher retention. And Kim Davis and Michelle Cradfield have been working closely on this. Michelle, do you want to cover this? And then Kim can cover the next item, the substitutes.
Yes, so as the memo says, we have an opportunity to receive some funds to help us with two particular projects. A Grow Your Own program, which is recruiting our students into the teaching profession, and that is $10,000. Every district received the same amount of money for that. These funds can be spent over 3 years. The remaining grant is the teacher retention grant, and that is based upon free and reduced lunch population. So our allocation is $93,000. Again, we can use that over 3 years. And you have before you our suggestions on how we would like to use those funds. I'm requesting that you go ahead and give your blessing to this plan so that once it is submitted, if the funds are immediately available to us, we can begin using them. Are there any questions? When you said that, I was a little worried there for a minute, Ian. Thank you.
This reminds me of so much of the conversation we've had with Kaufman and some of the recruitment challenges that we've had in my industry and some of the tactics we're taking in terms of reaching a much younger workforce in terms of right out of school and trying to kind of tap into that resource capability. I love the idea that this could evolve one day into having, juniors and seniors out of high school work with teachers in the elementary, to not only help teachers in the elementary school or whatever grade level they so choose, but the evolution of where this could go and how it could help with a teacher shortage and with the recruitment program and mitigate and help with our in-classroom education experience with our teachers and give them time allotment, right, to go plan and do things like that. It is so phenomenal. So I can't, I hope I'm around to see what the evolution of this really could be. I think we're just scratching the surface. This is kind of just a teaser to start thinking along those lines. But I think there's a unique opportunity in terms of how we work with the Kauffman Foundation as you guys illustrate what your plans are going to be to incorporate some of that logic and marry some of that up. I think it's really unique. So
I'd like to give a shout out to Rochelle Sinclair, who is, she's the teacher who has been coordinating our cadet teaching program for the last several years. We went to a couple of school districts and saw their teaching program and their professional studies courses. And she took some great ideas from that, has partnered with UCM for college credit. You know, we have a lot of students who want to be teachers, and it's an incredible opportunity for them to get some experience. And you mentioned elementary. I just want everyone to know that we actually have a high school student who's helping in one of our high school FACS classes. She's the cadet teacher there. And when we did walkthroughs recently, we actually saw her teaching the class. So it is very exciting. It's a great opportunity. We feel like with some additional publication and you know, promotion of the program and the opportunity for a scholarship for those going on into an education program after they leave us, that we really could recruit quite a few kids to participate in that.
The cadet teacher in the FACS classroom that we had the pleasure of witnessing was really, really cool, because when we saw her moving about the room, it was clear she was in charge. She was giving direction to the students, affirmations to the students, and I didn't know what was going on at first. And then I came to realize that this was a cadet teacher providing this direction. I had a similar experience as a cadet teacher when I was in high school, but I sure didn't have the command of the classroom like she did. Those were her peers, but they gave her the respect they would, you know, any of their teachers. So it was nice for us to see that.
Any other comments or questions on the Grow Your Own and Teacher Retention Grant application? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion in a second to approve the recommendation for the Grow Your Own and Teacher Retention Grant application.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation for the Grow Your Own and Teacher Retention Grant application. Any further discussion?
We're not voting on this referral program.
Not yet. No further discussion, please vote. Motion passes. 11.7, attract and retain quality substitutes.
Yeah.
To Sarah's question, the substitute referral program is part of the teacher retention grant. This is an additional item. We, as you know, we're suffering and not having enough substitutes within our buildings. We've dropped from, over the last 2 years, from a 92% fill rate, where we're currently running at a 76% fill rate. So if you would go into any of our buildings, you'll see our building administrators in the classrooms covering classes throughout the day, every day. As of late, central office administration has been in the buildings, actually teaching classes at various buildings throughout the day, pushing into the classrooms whenever they can. So last year when COVID hit and we knew we were going to be short substitutes in our buildings, during the month of October, we came to the board and asked for some type of incentive to encourage substitutes to choose Smithville School District over other schools in our area. Going into this year, we didn't think we'd have the same crisis, but obviously we are. We started last year with 100 substitutes in our pool. This year, we started with approximately 50 substitutes in our pool. We continue to recruit, we try and advertise, we have continued to build our substitute pool, but it is not enough yet. So we want to continue to try and attract substitutes to substitute here in Smithville rather than going out to the other communities. If you talk to a lot of substitutes, they do take jobs in North Kansas City, Smithville, Platte County. And so what can we do to make us stand apart? Our substitute rate is competitive with those in our immediate area, but to be a step above, we want to offer this incentive again this year. So the way it would work is if a substitute substitutes, picks up a class or a job more than 5 times in a 2-week period, because they're paid biweekly, then we would give them an additional $50 incentive for substituting in our district. So it's a $50 incentive for subbing 6 or more times in a 2-week period. That's to keep them here in our district and prevent them from going to other districts. So that's the basis of the program. Scott, can you unmute?
Take 2. Can you put together, have you put together the potential economic impact this would have on the district?
Yes, we looked at the cost last year, and it was approximately $4,600. So it's not a huge hit to our budget, but it went a long way to recruiting those substitutes.
Off the top of your head, what was the, with the incentive, what was the increased retention rate and recruitment rate for subs? So we went from 76%, the incentive was in place. What did we actually achieve after that?
Let me take a look here and see if I can identify that. So we were running around 84%, and we went up into the mid-90s.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on the substitute retention? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion in a second to approve the attract and retain quality substitute initiative as recommended in our packet.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second to approve the attract and retain quality substitutes as presented in our packet. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes. 11.8, safety and security monitor.
Yeah, this is another example of the administration requesting your permission to trade dollars. We're supposed to have 2 SROs in the district at this time. One SRO has been on paternity leave. He started the year with us and then shortly thereafter went on paternity leave. And the other position, we just don't have an officer available. We've talked a lot tonight about various employee groups and struggling to find people to fill those positions. Well, the police department has the same struggles, that we're having. And so they're down several positions and they just simply cannot afford to relinquish one of the officers they have to the schools as an SRO. So with one on paternity leave and the other one non-existent, we are missing some services for our students and for our staff. And so what's happened here is the high school administration has gotten together with Denise and Kim, and they've worked on a plan here, and it's the plan that you see before you, taking the dollars that we're not spending there and not budgeted to spend to put that towards another job description and to try to recruit someone, from that. So that's something that we would like to give a try. Again, it's trading dollars. It's not anticipated that it will be impactful to the budget. But it is quite a shift in what we were doing. And we don't know if it would be a long-term solution. I know I visited with the city administrator about this to this point, but we need to do something to try to support our students and our staff in this area. Denise, what else?
I think you hit it on the head. I mean, you've read through the memo and the job description. It was great collaboration actually with all of us. Like Dr. Schutz said, it was very much a team effort to gather job descriptions from area districts and to try to narrow down what that position really should look like and what the key functions to assist our staff would be. So again, safety and security, you know, answering to high school administration to assist in the duties that were listed. So I'm open to any questions you may have.
Would this position be commissioned or no?
It would not be commissioned.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments on the recommendation to basically exchange funds for this resource?
I would like to say this is not replacing, and you know, we will still need an SRO for various things. There are some things that only a commissioned officer can do to assist. So this person would collaborate with our SRO that we still have on staff.
No additional comments. I'll accept a motion in a second to approve the safety and security monitor as presented in our packet.
So moved.
Sorry.
Got a motion and a second to approve the safety and security monitor as presented in our packet. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes. 11.9 MSBA and Board of Education walkthrough recap.
Yeah, several of you were able to attend the MSBA conference, and a couple of you were able to attend the walkthroughs that we had last week. I wanted to give all of you that attended one or both of those the opportunity to share with the rest of the board what your takeaways were for those events.
I can start. I was lucky to get to go through the walkthrough. This was my first time to get to do it because we didn't have it last year. I think what it showed me is this has been a rough year for everybody, but our kids and our teachers, they're persevering through it. What I saw was kids working hard. I was impressed with all of the different ways of education. We had small presentations. We had kids doing large presentations. You know, we had teachers lecturing. We had teachers using whiteboards. We had teachers using like whiteboard boards. It was good for me to see just the various modes of education, and you could see different kids responding in so many ways, and it was good to see teachers doing that. It also showed me our classrooms are packed, they're crowded. So when you talk about social distancing and we're saying, you know, 3 feet, there's not 3 feet in those classrooms to be separate. So it was good. I just want to thank everybody that let me, you know, ask them questions, observe them, and I know the kids were nervous, but they did a good job when I would ask them questions. They did a good job of doing that. So hopefully we can, you know, get back into doing that again now. And I know it's hard for a lot of board members to get there during the day, but it was very beneficial for me.
And I'll add to that, I felt like the atmosphere in the schools was really good. And I noticed that the schools that were requiring masks, I didn't see anybody without a mask. I was very impressed with that, but it was a good walkthrough. Very good atmosphere in the schools. Teachers are very positive.
As far as the conference goes, I was not able to make the walkthrough, but the conference it was a good conference. I went to a number of sessions. The three different sessions that I attended that I thought really gave me some good takeaways and things that I'd like to discuss sometime as a group as we plan going forward. One of those is planning and really coming together, having a plan and working the plan and following through with that plan and having measurables coming out of the plan. That was a really good session. Another really good session I attended was one on community committee involvement and when's a good time to involve community committees. When's a good time to get them involved so that we can have a broader understanding of things and how that might look. That was very positive. The big takeaway that I got that I think our community needs to hear is the teacher shortage. It hasn't been as prevalent, but it is mentioned multiple times that expect it to hit us within the next year to 3 years. And we're going to have a real eye-opening on how few teachers are in the system. And it's going to become a real issue for not only our school, but all schools across Missouri. So if the numbers and the statistics they're holding or presenting ring true, it's going to get tough as far as teacher shortage. So something we need as a community need to be aware of. I don't have the answer, but at least we know it's coming our way.
Because of simple words that were taken in, taken out, whatever. Everybody got frustrated. I still don't know what we voted on. I don't think half the people there knew what they were voting on, but it was, you could see that there was a lot of unrest in the school boards throughout the state. And there was a lot of things. One of the things we were talking about was racial divisions in the schools. And that was where they were inserting words and taking words out, trying not to step on anybody's toes or anything. So, and that was one of the things that I really liked, the building anti-racist schools. Scott, were you in that one with him? Oh, Jeff was, that somebody wanted to, and this is the attitude that we're getting, is they wanted to remove the anti-racist and put non-racist, which means it doesn't exist. And that's kind of the attitude that we were seeing on some people, was that they don't want to recognize it. The last session I went to was a little school. I forgot where in Missouri it is. Its population of town is 1,000, and they have a program that a science teacher started that has won awards in the state of Missouri, and it's a technical program, video program. They are making videos, advertising for businesses, commercials and stuff, and they're just getting rave reviews, and they're making money doing it. I was very impressed. So anyway, it was a good conference. It was good. Found a new place to eat a hamburger downtown, Scott and I did. But anyway.
Any additional feedback or comments from either the conference or the walkthrough? Okay, moving on, 11.10, personnel report. We reviewed the personnel report during executive session. Any comments or questions at this time regarding the personnel report? If not, I'll accept a motion in a second to approve the personnel report as presented in our packet.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the personnel report as presented in our packet. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes. 12.1 miscellaneous.
Yeah, a few items for you here. First of all, the audit, the on-site audit wrapped up on October 29th. And we had a good review in our exit interview with Brad Steele from Westbrook. And you'll get a full report at your December 15th meeting. I did want to point out to the board that the state audit that began nearly a year ago is still ongoing. We had an exit interview in the spring with the state auditors and kind of believed that we were wrapping things up, and they had indicated here are some things that you can expect to see on your report. And then in radio silence all summer long, and reached back out to find out, when we were going to wrap this up. And then since then we've gotten a couple of batches of additional questions. So not sure really where that stands. We have asked, when will you want to meet with our board with your findings, and have not received an answer. So kind of confusing as to believing that was reaching a conclusion, and yet it goes on. So item number 3, we typically host a Christmas open house at the central office. All of those that work in that building put on a pretty good party there, and it's a lot of fun in years past. Last year, due to COVID, it was a drive-through event in the parking lot of the middle school, in between the middle school and the central office. It was better than nothing for sure, but it sure lacked what it had been in years past. So we are hopeful to do this year. Don't know what our cases will be like at that time, but we will keep COVID in mind and spread people out throughout that building as best we can, so where they can go sit down and eat. And then probably we'll provide some grab and go options for people that aren't comfortable staying with so many people around, but they do want to come and get some of the delicious food. I hear that there's somebody that makes chili that is just to die for, and makes that available for everyone. So want to make you aware of that. And if you're available, we would love for you to stop by on that evening. Feel free to take a little food home to your families. There will be, and there always is, plenty of food.
What evening?
December 9th, 2:30 to 5 p.m. Then the last item is the holiday turkeys. I want to remind you that we pass these turkeys out on the last day before Christmas. So that is December 17th this year. And that is a full day of school, correct? So we'll have a full day of school. And then at the end of that day, we pass out the turkeys. The board helps us with that if they're available. And the board seems to like to do that if they're available. So we'll have, our next board meeting is 12/15, so Wednesday the 15th. So we can talk more about that then. I just wanted you to look at your calendars, and if that's something you want to do, give you the opportunity to block off that afternoon. So that's all I have, unless you have questions for me.
Any comments or questions on the miscellaneous items or anything that we've not covered? Hearing none, I'll accept the motion in a second to adjourn this meeting.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. Please vote. We are adjourned. Thank you. Did you see the email? I forwarded you an email. Did you see it? Somebody from KSHB 41 was watching the meeting, I guess. Sent me an email about questions about masking.